what do you think of the old crack here by the fireside tonight? And I was thinking about the magic that's everywhere you go in Ireland. It's full of magic, absolutely full of it. And even when I go home now, I went in to see a woman about some business. Jesus, we only talked about the business I needed for 10 minutes, and we talked about the fairies and the magic at the land for an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, sure, it does be mighty. Great crack. And it was funny because this woman's aunt, I had a crush on her auntie when I was a boy. And I used to see her in the village. Oh, a lovely looking woman. And now I'm an older man, and this lady was there, and she was telling me she'd a fairy tattooed on her side or something. I thought, yes, if I was a younger man, I'd be looking at that fairy, like, but look, never mind that. But getting back to the magic, I remember the traveller people. The little story for the travelling people. Travelling people were lovely people when I was growing up. The older, there would have been the older people when I was a boy in 1970, 71, 72 up to 76, and the things, the great gifts, and the things they were able to do. I remember I used to want to be bringing the ass load of turf into to Kilbeggan, and I'd be buying the sweets, the penny bars, out the fiver coming home when I sold it. I used to go down the main street past Sliggy Daly's sweet shop, down the main street, and where the square is in Kilbeggan, the right down there, and there was a little horse dealer man down there, poor old Hanley. And I was shocking fond of Hanley. Wouldn't he be standing in the door, and all I could see was the shadow of him looking out. Oh, he knew exactly what time I was coming. And I'd be up on the top of the load of turf, and I'd let her roar in on him. Hanley, give me the hex, give me the spell. But he knew I was, no way, see, they were wise, very wise. He knew I was wanting to do harm to the old bollocks of a brother I had, and a few others that were tormenting me. And no, he said, no. He says, I'll tell you what I will do, though. He says, give me £1 for them 4 warts on your right hand. And Jesus, how he could see that from the dark. And he was a little small man. So I'd be howling the reins and my fist to be closed. He says, you give me £1. He says, and for 4 weeks on the trot, I went in with £1, and I gave him the £1. And he said, now, it's not that I need the £1 or I want the £1, but you have to give it to me. You have to cover me palm with it. He says, for it to work. Just I go home the next morning, and as God is my judge, that one of them warts was gone. And he took the 4 warts off my hands, and they've never come back to this day. No, that's a fact. Poor old Hanley. And because he used to say to me, he said, if you want to go, you're looking for magic, he said, you know where the magic is. Say, where? The fairies, he said. Go and talk to the fairies, he said, and they'll guide you better than I will. And I said, which ones? I says, the bog fairies in Bunnykill, the Long Hills, Rahew. No, he says, go to the Sleeve Blue Mountains, County Laois. That's where you go. He said, and the mountain fairies, he said, they'll sort you out. So because I got the Bunty Mac from Longford, he was a mate of mine. Now the Bunty believed in nothing, and I made nothing. And he was mad to come up for the magic mushrooms. He said, we'll go up and we'll get the magic mushrooms, he said, and we'll have a great time. So we went up. I'd now on the 50. I was only about 14. And didn't the guard stop us halfway near Tullamore? No, it was the far side of Tullamore. The guard stopped us. Where are you going, lad? I says, I am going up to the Slieve Blue Mountains. Is that right? He said, and where are you coming from? I said, Tower and Earls Pass. Just, he said, you're a long way from home. He says, have you got hunting on that bike in the line of tax, insurance and all that? And I said, nothing on it, only myself and the bunty. He just looked at me and he shook his head. But he was more fascinated with me story going up to these fairies up in the Slieve Blue Mountains. He says, what exactly do you expect to get from these fairies? I said, I want to get whole spells and yokes, and Macy here on the back, he wants to look for the whole magic mushrooms. I said, you know what you'll do? He said, take my advice. He says, you get on your way, he says, and get that bike in off the road as quick as you can. And he let us away, and some of them were like that years ago, that if they knew you weren't up to any real harm, you were only up to a bit of devilment, they'd let you go. But anyway, up we goes, and we were going round the butt of the mountain at first, and it was coming late evening. And we come to this traveller camp. And there's these couple of families, the traveller people. And in them days, you wouldn't think twice of stopping, and having a cup of tea with them and give them a few old cigarettes and maybe an old pound note if you had it. And we're always very good to each other, and I had to tell you stories, and so great old times like, and they'd have the washing hanging out over the ditches and everything. It was a lovely atmosphere. But I always spent maybe an hour or 2 hours with these traveller families, and we were telling them about the fairies, and I was up looking, and didn't your man turn round, an older man, turn round, and he's sitting there smoking a pipe, and he said, oh, Hanley sent you up. Now, there was no mobile phones, there was no social media, there wasn't you get hard to get a telephone, a landline, in them days. And I looked at him. Now, 4 or 5 days had passed since I seen Hanley, and Hanley told me to go up. Jesus, I remember thinking, that's fierce. How did he know? I said, he did. Well, I'll tell you what you'll do now. There's a little narrow road up that way. You and your mate, he said, leave your motorbike here, it'll be safe here. Go on, walk, and you'll find exactly what you're looking for. So we went up walking anyway, and the next thing was, walked for about 20 minutes. Jesus, didn't this little owl fella with a tall hat come out of the forestry trees? And a little gelding horse, not the size, not 3 foot high off the ground. And he said to the bunty, get up on this little horse, he said. And Jesus, the bunty, did you get that off the traveller? No. He said, this is mine. He said, the traveller people, he says, is minding their own business. He said, don't be bringing them into it, he said. But get up on this little horse, he said, and I'll bring you in and show you what you're looking for. And just as they were going, I was standing there, and that is the most beautiful girl I ever seen in my living life. She was more beautiful than was ever in this earth. She come out of the trees. She said to me, hello there, Nicky Fury, she says, you're a good lad, she says, you do mad things and you go mad in the head sometimes, she says, but you've a good heart. Just come with me, she says, I want to show you the places I know. And she brought me a different way. Do you know something? I was in there 3 days and 3 nights. Talk about being loved up. Sure, I could hardly talk. I couldn't take my eyes off her. And because at the same time, after 3 days and 3 nights, the sun never shone, the wind never blew, there was no rain, there was no moon, and there was no sun, just a sort of a grey light. We landed back out on this little boreen at the same time, the two of us. Jesus, and the Bunty was as white as a ghost. Jesus says, "Aye, Bunty, I had a great time. I'm madly in love." He said, "Well for you." He says, "I had a load of mushrooms," he said. "They were magic, all right." He says, all I seen was stars and big creatures coming up out of the ground." Well, says, "I good enough for you for eating them anyway. And they knew what you were looking for. Didn't we go down for a bite?" And the boys were still at the campfire, and the children came up laughing at us. "The fairies got you. The fairies got you." They knew. Jesus, the Bunty sat on the back of the Honda 50 the whole way back to tour. He stayed with me. And you know something? When we'd come out, we'd only been in there an hour. But to us, it was 3 days and 3 nights. Great time. You would, honest to God now, that's a true story, that happened. And they were, now you know, lads. See, them people, they were on the side of the road, but they were close to the land. And they knew the spirits of that land, and the spirits knew them. A lot better than we did, I'll tell you that for nothing. Jesus, they were great times.